Hi everyone, welcome back to this skills workshop. This would be the last skill workshop in this IGAC ECR 2025 conference. Thank you, Dr. Elka Walsh, for accepting this space. We are very grateful. The last workshop would be the use of Copilot for research and academia, which will be directed by Dr. Elka Walsh, who is the Chief Academic Officer for Microsoft Canada. Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Elka, for accepting. The floor is yours. You can start.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Juliana. I'm so thankful to have this opportunity to be with you all today. And so I have prepared some slides, which I'm going to walk through, and then we're going to do a little bit of some hands on keyboards. And since we're a small group, please feel free to write in the chat if you've got any kinds of questions. My role actually is not just with Microsoft Canada. I have a global role where I have responsibilities for our higher education strategy across North America with a line of sight into an influence over the globe. And so this is where I can maybe help with some of the ways in which we might be thinking about leveraging AI from a research perspective. And so please, I'm a political scientist by training. My PhD is in political science, public policy, and public administration. I'm a mixed methodologies researcher by trade. And so that will be sort of the bent that I take is a little bit more mixed methods. So for those of you who are a little more data oriented, please bear with me. I will not be an expert on Excel and Copilot, but I do have Copilot who will be able to help me with all of that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through some of the key considerations of using AI to support you with your research. And we're going to look at some examples as well that I have prepared for you. If you please do, let me know where you are from, what discipline you do research in, and use this chat to ask me any questions as we go along. I'm here as your really your confidential friend to ask questions of, and any question is fair game so that we can learn together and elevate capacity. And so with that, I am going to share my screen so that we can move really easily between all of the things that I want to share with you today. What it means is I am going to lose the chat for just a little bit, but I will come back to it as soon as we move into some of the more workshop areas as we go. And so let me just make this larger so that you can see it. So as we think about empowering research and innovation with Microsoft, this is where we want to be able to lean in to help all of you really get the most out of what's really possible. And so I'm going to talk about Microsoft Copilot Chat and Microsoft Copilot 365. And so the two different things there. This is where it can sometimes get confusing. We like to call most things Copilot when it comes to our AI interface. And so Copilot Chat is going to be the chat feature that is available to you in your browser setting. And so this is where you're going to be able to utilize the internet and ask really good questions to get to responses that can help you with your research. If you have Copilot 365, you have a little bit more capacity because what Copilot 365 is going to do is, yes, use the internet, but it's also going to use the documentation that you have to create more thorough and deeper responses to you. And so the difference is if you can see up in the very top of Copilot 365, not the chat, Copilot 365, you'll see the work and web toggle. And so when you're in work mode, you are going to be able to be accessing your data that you have within your identity that you will have. Now, for those of you who are affiliated with a university, at no cost to your organization, we have made Copilot Chat available. And why this is important is you'll see this nice little green shield. It's very small. That little green shield is going to really help you know when you are safe and inside your institution's domain. And so Where you'll access Copilot Chat is through this website, m365copilot.com. And you're going to be looking for that green shield. If you don't see the green shield, you'll need to log in with your institution's identity information, and then you'll have their cybersecurity wrapped around you as you are while you are using the Copilot. Now, why this is important is we, Microsoft, believe that your data needs to stay your data. It also means that we do not utilize your data to train our underlying models. Many other AI tools will do that. It also means that your data is not leaving your institution. And so that gives an opportunity to ensure then that your data is, again, staying as your data. And let me give you a little bit of an overview of what you can expect when you log into and are in Copilot Chat. So you're going to be able to start new chats up there on the top right-hand side. You're going to also, if you have access to it, you will be able to create your own agents or use existing ones that may be available to you. We're going to talk about Researcher Agent in a little bit that is available to all of you as well. And you're going to be able to see your recent chats. Any kind of chats that you've done with Copilot will be kept there so that you can access them later on and continue the conversation with your Copilot. Because Copilot isn't just about having one question, it's about having a conversation and discussion to get a back and forth and really get more deep on uncovering of information. You'll also find down at the very bottom there a prompt gallery. And that's on the bottom right-hand corner. You'll see there prompt gallery where you'll get some suggestions. Normally these prompts won't be geared towards researchers, but they will give you ideas about how to write prompts and maybe utilize some that are there with a little bit of tweaking for your unique scenario. You'll also be able to chat with agents, and that's what that @ symbol is down at the very bottom. So if you have if you do have that Copilot 365 license that is able to move across all of your data, you'll also have access to additional agents that you can create. And so you'll be able to include those in your discussions with Copilot. You'll also be able to add content. So in that bottom right-hand side where you would type in your prompts, you can upload reference work, so other files that Copilot might need to know in order to give you more contextualized responses. And I'm going to give you some examples of what that looks like in a bit. And you've got that prompt box where you're actually going to write your prompts. And you'll see when you have that landing page, there are going to be some suggested prompts right there for you to also get inspiration from. And so when you are thinking about your Copilot, 3 easy steps. 1, enter your prompt. Make sure it's detailed, and we're going to go over in just a few moments what that means. So a detailed prompt, make sure that you are giving as much information as possible and any kind of source information, reference files that you need in order to ensure that it is well contextualized. And in your cases, from a research perspective, you may want to leave it open to allow for a little more creativity or help really contextualize with other reference documents so that Copilot knows what it's looking for. Check the sources. Copilot Chat is going to give you its resources. It's going to tell you where it's getting information from. You're going to get footnotes. And so as a researcher, I always love this because it does help me make sure that what I am looking at is actually accurate. I'm going to be able to look at those footnotes, click on the website, and validate, in fact, that what I have been given is accurate. And I'm going to continue the conversation. So this isn't just about, as I said, writing one prompt and that's that. It's about having a dialogue, a back and forth to continue to enhance the responses that you are getting from your tool. And so what goes into a really good prompt? Well, how you ask Copilot to do something really matters. And for those of us who also have a bit of an education background, you'll know this is writing a really good learning outcome even, using words like create, summarize, edit, transform. This is going to give the context and the action that we really need the Copilot to be taking. And so think of them as your personal assistant. You'll see that Copilot will be able to help you with learning about concepts and different content, editing text, transforming documents, summarizing information, and creating some engaging content, particularly if you have a conference that you need to be presenting at. And also catching up on missed items. We all get very busy, and particularly when you're working through a significant research project, it can help you make sure that you're catching up on the things that you're missing. And so what makes an effective prompt? A lot of folks, when they are prompting, are just going in with some very vague requests, like summarize information of our biochemist around biomarkers, as an example. That's not really enough to help your Copilot really get good responses to you. But if I were to ask a different question, being more specific, writing in full sentences with instructions, giving tone and purpose and preferred format, as an example, I work in research and focus on biochemical research. I give me a concise summary of recent publications about biomarkers for early disease detection. Focus on key discoveries in oncology. Provide the answer in detail and be specific and use technical language related to the field appropriate to an expert researcher. Well, now I'm going to get a very different response from my AI, my Copilot. And so here's a little cheat sheet for you. Giving the goal, the context, source, and expectations. When you have all of those pieces, Copilot's going to be able to go and get the information you need and give you far better responses. And always think about the verification of sources. This is where, again, I love Copilot because I'm going to get those footnotes so that I can go back and double check that what I'm getting is true and accurate. I'm also going to be able to see that information contextualized if I need to research a little bit more deeply. And so when we are thinking about that, it does help us ensure then that our AI is giving us the accurate information, especially as you've probably heard that sometimes the AI can have these hallucinations. Well, this is just going to help you make sure that you're doing your due diligence, because this is why it's called Copilot, not autopilot. It's human in the loop, always contextualizing and double checking the information that's being given. I wanted to help you folks understand really what is the difference between utilizing your Copilot chat and what would be keyword searches. So back in the previous world, when I was doing my PhD research, the internet was a brand new thing, and so was Google. And I was doing keyword searches, as most of you will have been doing most of your research career. Well, the interesting thing is that when we have that keyword search, what we're doing is getting back a bunch of websites, and we have to go and start curating the information as we then go and review. And so when I use my Copilot, it's going to do that curation for you. And so if you were to look really closely at these two simple examples, if I wanted to use Format Painter in PowerPoint to help format my PowerPoints, I would, in a keyword search, go and use keyword Format Painter PowerPoint, and I would get these websites back that I would then go and check. With Copilot, what you're going to do is, how do I use Format Painter in PowerPoint? I'm going to use my natural language and ask my question. And then Copilot is going to review those websites, and it's going to give me my step-by-step. What I'm able to do, you'll see the footnotes are there. And that first footnote, support.microsoft.com, is actually that very first website that my keyword search would have provided to me in the old way of doing my research. That's a very, very simple example, but I hope it's illustrative to you of the difference that you're going to be getting when you're using a tool like Copilot Chat. And so to get the most out of this, you can interact with documents. You can turn a 20-page document into a 5 bullets. So you can imagine, as you're doing early stage literature reviews, as an example, this is your opportunity to research more broadly and get support from your Copilot to double check whether or not a document is something that you want to continue doing more in-depth research with. Drafting content as a writing partner, generating images and visuals, as well as also helping you with your data visualization. You can learn new skills. If you're not sure about how to do something, your Copilot can help you help teach you the steps and the information that you need to understand. You can also ask it very complex questions. So it can handle multiple data points and degrees of analysis. There's also prompt coaching, idea coaching, getting brainstorming assistance, writing coach, where you can refine your writing, a career coach. Would be more for your students, as well as a learning coach to refine your skills, particularly in new emerging areas where you may want to undertake new research and want to understand more deeply new concepts that have been uncovered. And so this gives you the opportunity then to really think about all of the different ways that you are able to add and enhance to the work that you are doing from a research perspective. And if you do have access to agents with your Copilot 365 license, then you're also going to be able to get your agents to do some work for you, which I always appreciate when I can have some of those more tedious things pulled off my plate. And so one of the differences that you're going to experience with the chat versus Copilot 365, with the chat, without a license, you're going to be able to upload documents with the paperclip symbol that's there. So you can upload a Word document, a PDF of maybe an article that you are reading and ask it for some help. But if you are with Copilot 365, where you have a license, you're going to be able to access that paperclip is going to give you access to your documents, and it will pull that up, and you'll be able to, with a click, add in your personal documents and do so securely and safely. You're also going to be able to create visualizations. I mentioned with data, but also with pictures. And this is where, again, you can add more depth to your research and your presentations particularly. I love it when getting ready for a conference that I'm able to utilize these tools so I can have a more engaging conference presentation. And so you're also able to download your responses from Copilot into Pages. You're also able to ask Copilot to give it to you in a Word document or a PowerPoint document and download that as well, so you can continue to edit and work on the documents that you receive. And for those of us who are not good coders, Copilot is also going to be able to help you interpret code and write code. So if you are doing some data analytics as an example and need some help with that and want to write some code to do some transformations, Copilot Chat and Copilot 365 is going to be able to help you do that. And remember the prompt gallery. So there is going to be a prompt gallery that you'll get. Well, Copilot gets familiar with your habits. You're also going to find that some of these prompts get a little bit more specific to the work that you do. And so it's a place to always look. So Copilot can do many things. Everything from drafting literature reviews to summarizing articles, refining tone for academic writing, analyzing data, visualizations, natural language formula generation. So if you're in Excel and not an expert at it like I am, I can use my natural language interface with Copilot to create my formulas in Excel. PowerPoint slides, it can prepare those for you, generate code, prepare grant applications, ERB submissions, and draft preliminary research proposals. And so to get started, it's really quite simple. Decide what you want to do, create your prompt and follow those examples of what I showed you there around how to write a good prompt, and then make sure you're asking follow-up questions. That way, your Copilot can get into more detail with you, and you can get a really, really useful final product. And so I am going to pause there for just a moment before I get into some of the examples that we're going to run through together. Are there any questions for me so far? Please, Max.
You've mentioned something that's quite exciting to a lot of us, which is the idea that AI can do a literature search for us. But one of the things that we're getting a bit stuck, and again, my experience with AI is not very in-depth, but are you aware whether or not Copilot is able to break through the paywall that some of the literature is behind, where when we are on our university network or on a VPN, we can access some of the literature like Nature or Science. But I'm just wondering whether Copilot, through its way onto the internet can also access those documents and therefore research it and include it in a query about literature, or is it stuck to what's open access?
Yeah, it will look at, particularly when you are in Copilot chat mode, so the non-licensed mode, it will look at only what is publicly available. When you are in your work mode, so if you have Copilot 365, if you're one of those lucky ones where your institution has that for you, you may be able to access documents that your library holds in digital format. It will depend on how your university is hosting that information. And so you may be able to do it that way. You can also direct Copilot. So if you happen to have a subscription, you can direct Copilot to go and have a look within your subscription. So remember when I said that you can add references, you can suggest that it go to certain locations to look for information.
I have another question if nobody jumps in.
Sure. Why don't you go, Max? And then if anyone else has any questions, I am just going to open up that Q&A. I see Sarah's got a question. Max, why don't we go to Sarah first, and I'll come back to you if that's all right. Okay. Is there specialized security features for the licensed Copilot compared to the unlicensed? If so, what are they? Okay, that's a really great question. So if you don't see that green shield when you open up Copilot chat, it means that you are in public mode. And so your institution's cybersecurity is not in place, which means that it's not being protected, your information. So it means it can be intercepted, as an example. But when you have that green shield and you are using your identity within your institution, then your institution's security is being wrapped around you and your information is secured. And so that's the difference between Copilot chat that would be unlicensed, Copilot chat that is licensed through your institution where you have an identity. Then there's Copilot 365, which is one more licensed layer. That license layer with Copilot 365 is when it's able to access the information that your institution has and is managed by through your identity management process that your IT team has. And again, your cybersecurity is wrapped all around that. As an example, and my own sister, she is an epidemiologist, and she called me up one day and I was very excited. She had some new data that she was working with and had uploaded it to another generative AI that was public and open. And she was very excited because it gave her back some insights about her data. And I said, wait a minute, which one did you use? And it was a public and open one. Turned out that they were training their models on the data that people were uploading to them. So her data, the data for her research, had now been publicly exposed. So please do not upload any of your research data unless you see that green shield. Please, only when the green shield is in place can you do that kind of work with your data. Sarah, I hope that helps you with the differences between the three models. Always look for that green shield, though, before you're doing any of your research work. And if you use Copilot for research, do you reference, and if yes, how so? Sarah, I hope I answered that question, that you'll see that there are the references and footnotes there that you will get back from Copilot. So Copilot chat, Copilot 365 will do that. And the new publicly available researcher agent will also do that for you. I'm gonna show you researcher agent in a little bit, but you will see those footnotes and references there for you. Sarah, I hope that's good. Please feel free to keep putting stuff in the chat. Simone, I see your hand as well.
Yeah, I've just read Sarah's comment, and I think my understanding of her question, at least, was if you use Copilot as like a tool, should we reference it in our papers? Not if it does referencing, but should we put it as like a online tool?
Thank you, Sarah, for that clarification. As I read it now with your lens on it, yeah. So I am seeing this being done both ways. I think personally, my personal perspective is if you use Copilot, I'd reference it. That information was developed with the assistance of Copilot. It is your search tool. And so many moons ago, I mentioned to you that when I did my PhD, it was the beginning of the internet. Okay, sorry, I just lost you there for a second. So I was told I couldn't use the internet for my research, and I had to have physical documents only. And so, you know, we reference right now when we download something from the internet, and I think that would be something similar, that this information was downloaded from an interaction with Copilot. And you might want to give your prompt as an example. The prompt used was. So that I think, though, there's no definitive right now agreement among the academics. And so something for you folks to be thinking about is the transparency of how you're accessing the information. Okay. Max, before I go to Bert's question, then why don't we do your question?
My question was whether or not there is a maximum amount of files that Copilot can deal at once if you're trying to compare several documents, or maybe try to get you've already gathered all the files that you want to go through, but you want to have a perspective overall. Can you fit it a lot at once, or can you point it to a folder on your computer if you're using the 365 one, where you're holding a really significant amount of documentation?
Yeah. So each file will need to be uploaded separately. So you can't point it to an overarching file and then away you go. So I just asked Copilot because I wasn't sure, because I've done several files. What Copilot chat tells me for licensed users with Copilot 365. So that's the one, right, that will look at your Word and your PowerPoint, and you need the license for. You get 20 files per chat to a maximum file size of 512 megabytes, so pretty big. And then there's a upload limit of 80 files every 3 hours, or 20 files per chat session. Then for unlicensed users, it's smaller. So max files per day for unlicensed without Copilot 365 license. So that's if you're using just the internet, maximum of 3 files, 512 megabytes per file size. And so it may vary slightly by region as well. And so some of you may get more than that as well. Great question. Okay.
Thanks.
You're very welcome. Okay, a lot of data is now open access with the FAIR principle put into place. Without pointing to specific DOIs, is Copilot up to date, and can it download the data itself for some preliminary analysis? I think if your prompt is written well, it should be able to. And so I would test it a few different ways to see whether or not it can find that information. If you're aware, what I've done with my Copilot is I've asked it to look for specific authors. I've asked it to look in specific locations, and it will do some combination of all of the above, depending on how much information I give it to do. Okay. Okay, and Ula, I work on developing simplified atmospheric models such as REACH for use in West Africa. Oh, wonderful. Welcome, Ula. Thank you for that. Any other questions for me? Okay. I'm going to show you some examples. So I wanted to be sure that my internet was going to hold. So I've done some queries with my Copilot that I want to share with you. So let me just share my screen again. And let me start here. I told and this is actually a true one, I have next week, I'll be hosting a panel with the president of an institution, a large polytechnic, and also a school district. And both of them have very, very different perspectives on AI innovation. And I asked my co-pilot about how can I ask good questions. So you'll see, I gave it my context. I'm hosting a panel, who I'm interviewing. I'll have 30 minutes for a discussion, the audience, who's going to be there. So please suggest 6 interesting questions to engage the audience and help David and Stephen showcase the innovations. And so co-pilot went through and got for me some suggested questions for me to ask. You can imagine not only is it helping me prepare for my panel, but I could also use this for if I am thinking about questions that I might want to be asking of a research project that I have underway. I could reframe this from that perspective. You'll also see here where it's given me some footnotes of where it's gotten information from. And so these institutions, it's public information. You'll see that they are also public websites where this is coming from. And it's also asking me now if I would like it to help me with an intro or closing for the panel so I can continue my work with. And you'll also see here that I've got all of my sources laid out. And importantly, I can edit this in Pages. I can copy it so that I can then take it over to a different document if I want to. I can share the prompt and copy share the prompt and the copy with the response. But I can also say to Microsoft, I like this or I don't like this. This is going to help Microsoft do better. You don't have to do that, but it's also going to help the co-pilot do better. I can schedule this prompt to occur more regularly. And from an accessibility perspective, I can read aloud and open it in Word. If I open in Word, I'll have access to Immersive Reader, which can where I can do translation as an example, and get more tools to help me continue to work with this information. So let me share another one with you. Let me get my toolbar out of the way. Okay, this one I have 2 resources that I've asked for support on. Okay, so to show you what I mean, you can see here where it has taken my my first document. This is from Morgan Stanley. It's about the ROI of AI, and you can see it is a 90-page document. I have very little desire to read this entire document right now. And another one about AI agents in learning and development. And you'll see that this really interesting document on how to deploy AI in learning is not a dissimilar document, a lot of information. And so I developed out this prompt where I said, you are a researcher trying to understand the impact of AI on higher education institutions. Please compare these documents and analyze the similarities and differences. So I've given it context, I've given it a role, and I've told it now I want it to provide me a summary of the key findings and make recommendations on further research that should be conducted to better understand the impact of AI on universities and use these documents. And so to use the documents, mine is, instead of the paperclip, it's a plus, and that's how I added the content. What you'll see here, though, and I want to share it with you, gave purpose and scope for each of these different documents. It gave me themes, similarities, and differences for each of the documents. And so it carries on for quite a bit. You can see implementation differences, challenges and risks, future trends, gave me key findings, as I asked, and my recommendations for further research. So you can see here how I start to develop out my research agenda by getting some help from Copilot to do a quick analysis of some documents. And now I can make the determination about whether or not I go back in and do some more effort with these 2 documents, read through them and expand on the recommendations, or throw them out if I think that Copilot hasn't done enough. You'll also see as it continues down, it's got a summary, it's got a conclusion, and it makes some suggestions to me on how it might help me do some more work. I don't have to take these recommendations, but I can certainly start utilizing them to continue to dig deeper with my Copilot. And so let me stop sharing there for a little bit. and any questions for me about where we are so far with these examples. And Aditi, I'm sorry, but could you please not use Otter.ai? Otter.ai will train its models on our information today, so I prefer not to be sharing that. Okay, so with that, I want to share one more with you, and this is the researcher. So I'm going to show you again my screen so you can see where I have my agents that I have added. And so here up in my top left, this is within my Copilot, you'll see I have my agents. I have researcher, analyst, I developed an AI curriculum builder. I've got another one here around accessibility policies. And so I asked, in support of a university that I was doing work with, I'm sorry, I'm going to make you all motion sick here. One of the universities that I was doing work with, we wanted to understand the impact of Copilot on family practice medical residents. And so I asked this prompt of Copilot, researcher. So researcher is an agent. It is open to you. If you have Copilot Chat or Copilot 365, you can access this researcher. I love researcher because it just goes into so much depth, and I'm going to share with you what I mean by that. So I want to conduct a research study on the impact of DAX Copilot on family practice medical residents and their retention in the profession. So please develop a formal research study to assess the positive and negative ROI. Excuse me. So researcher comes back and asks me some more questions. Do I want a quantitative study or mixed methods or quantitative? Where should it focus? Specific regions, institutions, residency programs, time frame, specific outcomes or metrics that I want to prioritize, and what kind of format should the research report take? Formal study design or conceptual framework and recommendations. So I give my responses to Copilot. I tell it more of what I want, I respond to it. Then Copilot goes away and thinks. And here is where Copilot showed me how it thought through the process of responding to me. This is all of the steps that it took to start analyzing all of the different things that were going to go into the research report. This research report was then developed for me. And you'll see again, I've got all of my great documentation that it pulled from, gave me my footnotes, it's given me some background and rationale. And if I continue to scroll down, it's going to talk about the study objective and research questions. So it's going to give me some suggestions on my research questions, as well as some help with my study design and methodology. Around the setting and participants, interventions, overall design. And so you can see here it's helped me with some quantitative methodology as well. And continuing to go down, it's giving me my timelines. Now, I didn't explore further with and you'll see qualitative methodologies as well. But you can see where it's given me some ideas on metrics and outcomes to assess. It's also given me some information that is publicly available to start grounding from a literature review perspective. And you'll see here, if you were an expert in this field, you'd probably be impressed with some of the triangulation and implementation and next steps. So this was with the University of Rochester, was going to be my example. And so it is suggesting that I go to the IRB for ethics review, my stakeholder engagement, participant enrollment, training and rollout, monitoring. And so you can see here as well some challenges and mitigation strategies. And so as you can see, researcher as an agent really started to get me going really very easily. And I asked it for a Word document, had trouble doing that. And then it did give it to me in the end. With clarification, it was able to do it. And it also gave me a shorter summary that I needed for this. So let me pause there. Any questions for me on researcher? Max, please.
So while you were presenting this, I did open my work Copilot 365, and having not used that option before, I'm faced with explore agents and create agents. And while researcher is quite impressive, one of my questions would be how many references they did output with that research report, but also can you explain more broadly what are the agents, and particularly what is that create agent?
Yeah. So
sorry, it's quite vast.
Absolutely. So researcher will give you, you can actually ask it to give you a certain number of resources as well, or direct it to specific resources. So for this one particularly, I see there are over 10, more than 10 resources that it pulled from. And so that's something. It goes through a whole process and is trying to look for depth. And I can continue to add to it. If I feel it hasn't done enough or looked at the wrong resources, I can ask it to go back and do it again, considering some of these other resources. The create an agent is going to let you create your own agent. It's going to be really simple. You won't need to have any coding capacity. It will literally be, what do you want your agent to do, and what documents do you want it to learn from? And then you'll have your new agent. I created an agent on the fly in a workshop like this, but I had 150 people, and we wanted to create an agent on academic research policy and ethics review processes. And so the agent then was to respond to all of the process steps that a researcher needed to go to secure ethics review. And so we did it in a couple minutes, and then that way the researchers now have access to their coach to help them get through the ethics review process.
Nice.
Great.
Can you
Sibeli.
limit? Oh, sorry. Can you limit or direct the references, or like what's going to be the guideline for your agent?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It will ask you that question. So you can tell it to look only at these resources to give its responses when you create your agent, or you can tell it to also look at the internet. And so you can make it as broad or as narrow as you want it to.
Okay.
For that ethics review,
yeah.
That's the ethics review one that I gave you the example of. We literally trained it on one document, and it only referenced that one document. We tried to make it do more, and we couldn't. It would look only at that one document.
Okay. But like we all have some specific areas of work, and then if you would like to narrow to some specific journals or just certain types of publication, this is possible to do.
Yes. 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 In the agent, when you create it, it will ask you about the reference documentation. And so you will be able to add very specific documents that you want. You can also tell it to access other documents. So the internet or look broadly can be the direction to it as well. So you get to decide.
Okay. Or like some specific journal, or can I give a list of scientific journals and it's going to look only at those resources?
That's right, so long as it has access to those journals. So as an example, in the earlier question that Max had, if you are within your university environment and by a matter of course, you would be able to go in and look at these journals, Copilot will be able to go and look at those journals. But if you, it won't be able to go 2 clicks deep on a website. So if you say, look at the Journal of Nature, it's going to say, I need more than that. Or if you say, look at the Journal of Nature, WAC, issue 31, WAC, year 2024, WAC, and the title, it won't be able to do that because it's 4 clicks deep into the website. So it can't be more than 2 clicks deep. If you know of articles that you want it to go searching for, find those articles and download them and then point Copilot to them.
Okay. if it is open access and I have the DOI, can it do it if I give
Yeah.
only the DOI information?
Yes, yes, it should. Yeah,
Okay.
I've used the DOI before and it has worked for me. I'm not sure why. I think it's because it perceives the DOI as a PDF for some reason. So it should work with the DOI, and if not, then download the DOI into a PDF.
Okay. Is there any difference about the reach of the 365 being like a personal license or a university license?
Yeah, so when you have your personal license, it's going to depend what your university is allowing you to do. Some universities are not allowing you to have your personal Copilot 365 license. And so and utilize it within their framework. And so that will be an issue if you have a personal one to check whether or not it's going to work within your university. Then there is if your university has given you a license, then you're going to be able to access everything that you have access to within the university context and the internet.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. And Kun, I see here, I'm curious how the agent can make the suggestions personalized, research and methods suitable for different person. Yeah, so you would be able to give it a persona if you wanted to. So you could tell it to behave in a certain way. And you can tell, right? I gave it the persona of an expert researcher when I gave my prompt to it. So you should be able to do that, yes, in your prompting. And if you are thinking about methods suitable to different people, depending on their scenario that you want to understand the different demographics, as an example, Copilot will be able to help you with that too. It's all in your prompting, which is going to be really key. I've given you very brief prompts. When I want to do some very, very detailed research, my prompts might be a whole page long in order to get the level of detail to get Copilot really working deeply for me. So don't hesitate to make them very long prompts. I've given you short ones for the purposes of today, but you can make them very long. Max.
Thank you.
Some lived experience. If you're in a period as an early career scientist where you're applying for jobs, will Copilot remember from one chat to another if you've already provided it with your CV, with information about you, but then you open a new chat to create a new job application? Will it have a memory of everything you've already provided it? Like, does it remember you as a person, or do you need to re-provide it all the documentation that you want it to incorporate in its reasoning to write the new job application or something like that?
Yeah, so if you so remember I told you it's going to remember your chats. You're going to be able to go through your chat history. So long as you're in the same chat, it remembers what's been shared in that particular chat. It won't be able to go and connect two different chats that you've opened up with it. But remember, Copilot is also accessing all of your documentation, right? If you have Copilot 365. And so if you ask it to reference your resume, it will go and reference your resume. So you can point it back there if you're starting up a new chat, or you can continue with the existing chat. Those would be the two ways that I would get to that place where it remembers.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I have about 5 minutes more. Is there any other questions for me? Any other questions that you want to explore, or anything you want us to try out? So far, my internet seems to be holding in these last 5 minutes. Max?
Do you have some examples of how to get Copilot to either analyze data sets, like tables of, I know we're quite like scientists where we're measuring atmospheric composition, time series, where you just throw it an Excel and you're like, have a go at analyzing this or find something interesting in this, or example of creating a PowerPoint either from a paper or from, again, a data set, something like this?
Yeah. Okay, so let me give you an example. We're going to go and ask Copilot together about analyzing data sets. Okay, so let me move that out of my way. Okay, here we are in Copilot. How can I analyze large scientific data sets using Copilot? And let's hope it does this more quickly. Yeah.
You're using the general chat because I can see you also have an agent called Analyst.
Yes. Yes, that's right. So that Analyst, I think Analyst is actually publicly available. It should, there we are. Yes. So that was the response. So Copilot says, use Copilot Analyst agent. Research and Analyst are now available. And so you can use Analyst to help you with that. You'll also see that my new my prompt has appeared in my conversations list now. And so and then I can ask it things like, and it's given me an example of how I can go do this. What are some trends and insights about the data from the uploaded file? Now remember, 500 and some odd megabytes. So you're gonna have to be careful about that. So just remember that that might be a case. Copilot in Excel, you're going to be able to use natural language. You're going to be able to say, please analyze this data and summarize trends. You also will be able to get it to help you with formulas if you need to. And then Copilot Studio with Code Interpreter will be able to run some more complex calculations for you. So those are some of the ways that that you can get to analyzing the data with Copilot. Does that help, Max? Great. It did give me some other more detailed things. So depending on your scenario within your institution, if you do have access to Fabric, that's a whole other additional conversation. You'll be able to do even more than what is possible with just the Copilots. Okay. And Max, I think you had one more question for me in there that I didn't answer. No, did I get them all?
The PowerPoint?
PowerPoint. All right. Well, let's go on in and I'm going to create a PowerPoint with you folks and you can see what I mean. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, so here we are. I've just opened up a new Copilot, a new PowerPoint. Up here are my nice little stars. This is actually my Copilot. Create a new presentation with file. So I'm going to actually use one of the files. So let's use that Morgan Stanley return on investment. Create a presentation about, now I can stop here and it will do it. I can also specify how long I want this presentation to be or what I want it to focus on. So please focus on risk mitigation and ROI. And make this a let's do a 10-page presentation for senior executives. Okay. So what it's going to do is, while it works on this, I'll explain what's happening. What it's going to do is it's going to get all of the ideas from the document. And then what it's going to do is summarize that and give me a summary of what will go into my presentation. And so you can see here, it's got, it's almost done. I'll let it keep going. So it has different sections for me and what's going to go into the elements of my presentation. What I can do at this stage is when it finishes up, it can, I can edit it here before I ask it to go into and make the presentation. It is a 90-page document, so it's only fair that it take a couple minutes. And then it is going to keep going. This is more than 10 pages. All right, there's my conclusion, executive summary. Okay, so now I can decide whether to edit or accept it and generate slides. So I'm going to accept and generate slides. And you'll see that it had also footnotes in there where it had told me where it was getting information within the document. So I could go and grab that. And so now it's going to generate my slides. You'll see what it's going to do is I am going to have some nice slides, different sections, section titles. And the thing that I really appreciate about it is it's going to give me speaker notes. So I can start with and have all of my speaker notes ready to go that I can then add to as I need to. Okay, so it didn't listen to me about the 10 slides. So this is why human intervention and human oversight always has to be front and center with our AI tools. Haha. All right, there it is. So did it do it? No. So it gave me more slides than what I asked for. But again, we as the humans need the oversight. But what you'll see here, right, is within each of these, I have now my meeting program. I've got, here we go. And you'll see down here are all of my speaker notes to go with it. And so it references the following, Gen AI ROI, and it also has all of the different elements of my table of contents, and it's given me some of the key ROI information here. So that's how it gets you going on all of your PowerPoints. And you can see when I reference my document, you can imagine if I'd written a Word document, it would have done the same thing if were preparing for a research report.
Can I ask, it did drop quite nice graphics or figures or photos in there. Were they pulled directly from the document, or did it just went and got them from the internet?
Absolutely. So those are all open source licensed pictures that it added based on the theme that it had interpreted from the report. And so, yeah, that is a key element of I think what makes the PowerPoint tool so fabulous is that it will make it really polished for you and also licensed pictures for you.
Impressive.
Fantastic. And I think we're at time as well. And Sarah, I see your hand.
Oh, hi. Just one quick question. Do universities sometimes share resources where a university license can find journal articles which are difficult to find from other sources? So do you have like university to university interaction with the licensed co-pilot?
So I've only worked specifically with individual universities to help them make sure that they're getting access to or giving access to those pieces of information. And so what I would do is connect with your IT team or library services to make sure then that you have the identity management to go and access those, and then you can be getting your co-pilot to go and do that for you. Does that help, Sarah?
Yes, thanks.
Great.
Okay, so I think we're towards the end of the skills workshop. Thank you so much, Dr. Olka. We really appreciate your talk and your workshop on the use of IA. So thank you very much.